I'm Paul.
And I'm Kenny, and this is EWPK.
I love that intro, man.
I do too. Aloha, Paul.
What the hell? What is
I'm
that?
already drinking. This
You're
this
ahead of the curve.
I know. I started during the intro. During the that great music, which I'm always dancing to. No, I'm in Hawaii, and so of course I'm drinking already.
All right. Well, we'll get to that in a couple of minutes to find out what the
All
hell
right.
you're drinking there in that
All right.
very big glass.
It's it's a little of
I have a special
lighter
glass
drink.
I'm drinking from today too, which
I know yours is way more sophisticated than mine.
No. It's a special glass. You'll see it.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So, listen, it's been a month, I think.
Yeah.
Since we did the last show. You know what? I've realized actually, every time I see our intro and I see the live from New York part, which is really just an intro of what's going on in my head 24 hours a day. Right. Right. So, but I realized that for some reason that works for this show. And I'm not sure why exactly. Again, it's literally just, I wish I was in New York 24 hours a day.
Me too.
But I'm not. Right. So, but it's just like the attitude of the show works. I mean, think about it. Like, what did we have last time? We had Chantel Bear, right? Your friend.
Yeah.
First woman-owned company. The payload to Odysseus on the moon.
Yep.
Time before that, we had two kids in New York, right? Amanda and Olivia Berkson, and their song cycle was already been performed in a theater in New York at the age of 22, and they're twins, right?
Pretty amazing.
Florence. I mean, we really have had this really.
Yeah, remember? Yeah, we had the guy who created the food scarcity, criteria for the United Nations. We've had amazing AI guys. It's amazing.
Yeah, you're the guy who used to be he was at Disney at the time, running Disney AI. I know. It's just you know what I like about it though? It's not enterprise tech.
No, it isn't. It really isn't.
I mean, you could make a case Disney AI is, but that's really, he's more on the. This guy was, if I remember, was much more on the creative side.
Yeah, he's much more creative and kind of textual, like where is this going and what's the impact, and less on. I mean, almost everyone we have on has another side of them, which is they're phenomenal in business, and they look at the world through multiple different lenses, and where our focus is, and maybe that's because
wow,
we're late night.
I just stopped for a second. I want you to just think about what you just said. They're phenomenal in business, and they look at the world through different
multiple lenses,
and then they're focused. And literally, think about our show for a minute.
Yeah, of course, that was perfect for our show today. I mean, I wish I had actually done that deliberately. I mean, and that's the beauty. Same thing with these incredible people that we're having on today. The way they look at the world is magical. It really is.
You know what it is too, is not only is the way they look at the world magical, but because they are, look, every one of them is in the business technology world. However, every one of these guys, and we'll get to who they are in a little bit, every one of these guys not only is looking at the world differently via photography, but we get to see how they're looking at the world, which is amazing. And the hardest thing in the world hardest thing in, let's escalate a little here. The hardest thing in the universe, I think, is to be able to create something that that someone else sees you, how you look at things, and they are impacted. And every one of these three, the three Michaels, every one of these three can do that. And each of them, by the way, has an interestingly very different kind of area of interest, focus, eye. It's just very different. But all of them are exceptional photographers, and honestly, could stand with the best of pros, I think.
Well, you just said something that I think is really impactful, and it falls into kind of what I studied a little bit with Joe Pine. You know Joe Pine,
of course.
Experience guy, wrote the Experience Economy. Yeah. For you, Yankee fan. For me, the guy who wrote the Experience Economy. But in fact, he's writing a book right now, I think, on transformational experiences. But the way we think about transformational experiences is where you are the product, right? You are the thing that is changed after that experience. And you can literally say that these guys create transformational experiences through their product, because you are definitely someone different after seeing some of these amazing photographs. And what we're going to hopefully be able to do here is kind of go even deeper behind the scenes of that to really help you understand how someone thinks about capturing the world. Because you see a picture and you're like, oh, that's amazing, but just have no idea what that really took to capture that. These are experience creators, these guys.
Absolutely right. And look, we're going to have representative examples that we'll be talking through with them. But the reality is they have hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands, of photos they've taken. And I've seen a fairly fair amount of all three of their photos over the years. And I'm not kidding at all. I'm not saying this because, we're on the air and I'm supposed to be nice. I literally go, wow, when I see almost every one of their shots. I just, and you know what? Wow means one way or the other, it got to me. Right.
Yeah.
And there's certain kinds of brilliance. And I'm going to bring out I have a couple of questions on some of the shots that, I'll put it this way. Now that we got them, I'm dying to get them answered. So
I know, I want to know is how I take pictures of these, and what one of my biggest challenges, and I'm by far not a professional photographer, although I do have an iPhone with 1, 2, 3, 4 cameras. So I guess that means I'm a photographer. We'll talk about that. Yeah, same thing, right? I'll look at something through my naked eye and go, the most beautiful thing I've experienced. Take a picture, doesn't even come close to capturing that. And I understand Grand Canyon, big, beautiful sunsets. Okay, maybe it just is there a way to do that, or is it that there's much more visceral elements to experiencing something? But then I look at their photographs and I'm like, that's visceral. So
that's the thing. The genius behind each of them, I think, is that they can look. Nobody can reproduce the exact experience because there's a couple other scent like smell and
not yet, at least
touch and so on are part of that, which you might touch a physical photograph, but that's not the same as grabbing a boulder in the Grand Canyon.
Right.
So, but as close as it can be reproduced, the feeling can be reproduced, I guess is the best way to put it. They do, and that's what's amazing. So maybe what we ought to do is first let's drink a little bit, and then let's get on to the show. So
you mean you need to catch up with me?
Yeah, well,
in drinking. I haven't been
what
drinking.
What are you drinking? What is the
It's a very sophisticated drink called the Summer Club. It's a
Is that you drowning when you were drinking it?
Yeah. Yeah. I don't think so because let's see. I think it's got like 6 ABV, so there's not much alcohol in it. 6%. Sparkling white wine, juicy sweet pineapple, tart lilikoi, and a tropical vanilla bean. I love how they put the marketing adjectives right in front just to make sure you realize it's juicy and tart as well.
What's
But
lilikoi exactly?
oh, lilikoi is really kind of passion fruit.
Oh, got it.
Yeah, that's very well known in Hawaii. I love lilikoi, and it tastes like that. And pineapple, of course. I'm in Hawaii, so when in Rome, and so although I should be having a Mai Tai right now, but I'm actually enjoying this. It's very light and juicy and tart. Actually, it's truth in advertising. What about you, Mr. Sophisticated? I have to get things
I
from
have this
other
new
countries.
healing Irish whiskey, and I think we've established on prior shows how much I love that distillery. They're they're a contemporary distillery. They're not rooted in like tradition, sort of like Jameson is. And in fact, they were the first new distillery in Dublin in 125 years. I know the master distiller. He's an American from Portland, actually, named Alice Chasko. These guys win every award imaginable. They recently came out with an Irish whiskey that they made, not with the normal malts that you get in Irish whiskey, but with crystal malt. And I, you know what I can't keep thinking every time I hear crystal malt. I think,
yeah, of course.
The other crystal with an N, right? So, but this is crystal malt, and the thing with crystal malt that distinguishes it's a bit sweeter than than the normal malts that you're used to, and it tastes more like you're eating the barley itself. You can kind of taste it almost as if it were raw a little bit. It's just It's very different, and it's really good. So, and here's why I said I have a special glass. Yeah, let me get rid of our thing here. Hold on. I am going to solo this. All right. Wait. That's why. New York Yankees. Right? So baseball season starts tomorrow. Right? And it's for the first time in 4 years, I'm home for opening day. Right? And I am going to be watching that game against the Astros at 4:30, which is exactly why I am drinking in that glass, which was, by the way, given to me by the Yankees. Right?
Really?
So, yeah. Well, Scott gave it.
Yeah. Well, still, that counts. Well, I can get 812 fluid ounces for like $35. How much does yours cost?
Well, actually, so wait, this is 7.
But also, you didn't get it. You didn't get it here, didn't you?
No,
order it?
I got it from Celtic Whiskey Shop in Dublin.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Of course, I had to pay exorbitant shipping fees. I mean, I got more than this. I bought, otherwise, shipping the shipping fees would be more expensive than the bottle.
Yeah,
bought one bottle. This only runs, I think, 90 or 100 maybe total.
Yeah.
It's not terrible. It's in American Virgin Oak. It's crystal malt. It's really nice Irish whiskey, and it could be potentially a beginner's whiskey too. It's got that sweetness, and it's got that kind of nice barley taste. And so again, I'm not going to get into the adjectives and nouns that most tasters use because I think they're ridiculous. Like I still love the one that says has a touch of tar. And I'm thinking, are you eating tar that you know that? I mean, how do you know that? Right? Has a touch of tar. Right?
Touch of tar.
Oh yeah, I've heard that one. Anyway, that's it. You want to we don't, since we got to wrap up at some point before it's midnight, we probably should get on with the shows. But we got a long haul to get over to the other studio.
Yeah, I'm going to take the Hawaiian Wiki shuttle over to my other studio. Okay, so
I'm going to
may take me a sec.
NASA's train station so I can catch Amtrak. And
okay, so it'll take you even longer.
I'll meet you at the other studio.
All right. Okay, I'll see you over there. All right. Bye.
That was the fastest
just made
hours I've ever seen.
It's time is just perception, right? So
wow.
And with that, I know with that great musical interlude, I think it just made it feel like just took a couple seconds.
All right, so let's introduce the three Michaels now. And I think what we'll do is, look, I love these guys. I love all three of them. I really do. But I'm going to let them introduce themselves because I also would like them to talk a little bit about the work they do now, right? The work we're actually doing, and then we'll get into the photography. So let's start with Michael Thomas, one of my longest standing friends, named Michael, and Michael Krigsman, who I've known for many, many years. And once again, another one I've known for many, many years, Michael Fauscette.
Three Michaels.
I'm still really, I really want to say Mike Fauscette, but I'm going to keep it formal. Well, we already got it since that's kind of how you go. So, Michael Thomas, why don't we start with you and just tell people a little bit about yourself and what's going on, and make sure you mention the CRM Association, by the way.
Oh, okay. Yeah. That's where we met, in a way. Let's see. Been in the technology industry for over 30 years. Companies such as Oracle, PeopleSoft. I did a longer tour with Microsoft. And currently I'm working for a company called Boingo Wireless, which is a new challenge for me. It's exciting. It's more telecommunications, but I'm really enjoying it and loving life. So that's me. I picked up a camera 2017 and was smitten. And from that, that's where I'm at now. I just embraced it. I've always liked photography. It was a little tough for me to learn it. My dad was trying to teach me because it was all manual, and I have very limited math number skills. And so it took the industry to grow, for me to grow with it. So here I am.
Well, two other things about Michael. He was the second president after Ginger Cooper, the second president of the CRM Association for several years. Super popular one, in fact, and was the first customer success person at Microsoft ever. Okay, so he's got a hell of a history too in the industry. How about you, Michael Fauscette?
Sure. Well, currently I have a firm that I started a couple of years ago called Arion Research, and then I also have a few other outside activities. I'm the chairman of an IoT startup. I'm on the board of a sales tech startup, and in my spare time, I do a couple of shows, one on your network, as you know, and then I also have another one called Disambiguation, which is an AI focused podcast that I've been doing since last summer. And I got into tech really because my background was all liberal arts. Like I was a musician, I was a photographer, I worked in both professionally, and I come from a Navy family. Somehow I ended up in the Navy as an officer. I spent 10 years on ships. And when I went in the Navy, they went, artist, you make a great engineer. And so I did, and I ended up working in software testing. So I got out and I worked at 7 vendors, including Autodesk and PeopleSoft, which is where you and I met, Paul, of course.
Yeah.
And then I went on the dark side and went to IDC as I ran the global enterprise apps practice. Then I went to a little startup called G2 and was chief research officer there for 5 years. Left that. But I started in photography when I was really young. Like I I always was interested in it as long as I can remember. I think my first camera was something called a Brownie, which was basically a plastic box with a hole in it.
Brownie.
But it was, hey, it was fine. You learned a lot. And I really started in high school. I was a stringer for a couple of newspapers and a news station in Atlanta, and just kind of got into it and kept trying, working on different things. I worked as a commercial photographer for a little while, but I realized that I love photography and I don't like to take directions very well, which is why I went in the Navy for 10 years too, by the way. So I like to shoot what I like to shoot, I guess is the answer to that. And I just didn't really like taking directions. And eventually, we end up in tech.
And then one fun fact, the very first book I wrote in quotes with more project managers was on People 7.
Paul, it's a little hard to hear you.
Okay.
So, while Paul's doing that, there's my grandfather was a photographer, and he told me one of the most, when you, Michael, you mentioned a Brownie. He said one of the most amazing things about the Brownie was that you could change the film in daylight, which I guess, I guess that was one of the features. I'm not really sure how that would work back then, but that's what he said.
Yeah. It was you ended up rolling it into itself basically, and then you could pop it out.
Oh,
and so it worked pretty cool actually.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Pretty smart, Kodak.
So in 1996, we wrote the book on PeopleSoft 7. Mike was a co-author. That's when I met him. 1996. Wow. He worked with Scott Fletcher. That's how long I've known this guy. So we're in 2 years it'll be 30.
Yikes.
Yeah, I've known him back then, right? And now Michael Krigsman, take it away.
Hey, Paul and Kenny and the two Michaels. I am the host of a video podcast called CXO Talk that speaks with the top business leaders from the largest and most well-known organizations in the world. We talk about enterprise AI and the digital economy, and we just finished episode 831.
Yeah.
So I've been doing it for a while, and it's just an honor to be here with both of you and with the two great Michaels.
I will tell you something with Michael's. I highly recommend you watch the show. I've watched it many times, been on it once or twice over the years. First, the guests are off the charts, outstanding, and they tend to be Michael, because he's a very good host, a really good host, knows how to get the most from them. And secondly, if you're on let's call it on the technical side, it's incredibly beautifully produced. I mean, Michael's photographic eye is applied to the production values he uses on the show. So highly recommended CXO Talk. Really, it's worth your time. And the only fun fact I'll say is, I knew Michael before he even did episode 1. Way before episode 1, actually. So we go back a long way too.
And Paul, you introduced me to Mike Fauscette.
That's right. That's right. So now you're introduced to Michael Thomas, who is, by the way, again, I mean, look, venerable, because I'm stuck with that one, means old. Okay, so I'm not going to. Michael's not venerable, but he's right. No, I wouldn't wish that title on anybody. But Michael Thomas is distinguished, and that's the best way to put it. It's distinguished. You are. You've had a hell of a career, and
I hear my wife laughing downstairs.
All right, so let's get into this, and we'll get to a gallery in a little bit. Kenny, I know you had something you wanted to get this thing.
Yeah, Mike's the 3 Michaels. So I'm an experienced guy, as people know, and so I'm always fascinated on the creation of experience. And one thing, even with my grandfather, I'm always fascinated to hear and wondering on how what is the process that you use in capturing a moment? And how do you decide when to press the shutter? And maybe how has that changed? If you were doing photography back when film cost money and digital now doesn't, was that a factor as when you push the button or click the shutter? And what goes through your head, and how do you decide?
Any one of you just get it.
Yeah, any one of you.
I'll start. I think I have two phases or two sides, yin yang, I'll call them, of my photography. The black and white, which is street photography. I'm usually noticed emotion or feel empathy or just like the be curious, not judgmental. When I see people on the street, I'm curious about them. About what their lives are about, why, and I want them to be seen. It's like Ralph Ellison's Invisible Man. It's people around and just making just thoughts about you that's really not true because they don't know you. But I feel for people, and it started. I think I was coming home from the airport and late, very late, and I saw people standing at a bus stop heading home. Which it just touched me. So that part is something that I want other people to know, to empathize and to not make judgments. There's many stories. Prior to COVID, I would go up and talk to people. I keep in my car clothes, food, money, whatever, and I talk to them. I don't take anything without giving something. So that is what I like to do. And this picture here, I've seen this family. There's a dog in there too. I don't know if you can see it, but it's in the smaller trailer.
Oh yeah.
I've seen them multiple times. I've said hello to them. I saw them a couple of weeks ago, and I just saw that, and I thought, how many people are judging them, and I'm thinking, I don't know them. I don't know how they feel about it, but I can tell you they probably have less stress, less chaos than most of us. And everything contained. So that's how I look at my black and white. I drive by something. There are many shots. The shots I really want to take sometimes I miss because I'm driving, or just because it didn't happen didn't mean I caught it. But those are the ones that I really are near and dear to my heart. The bird nature pictures are kind of is the yang of it, because it's bright. Black and white is more of the yin, right, which is negative, black and white. But the yang is more color, positive. And so I spent a lot of time in my backyard, just looking at birds, studying them, looking at them. I used to just take plain pictures of them, but I've developed the skill set of taking them in flight. And that is something that's many, many hours of watching them, many of them missing the shot. It's kind of like the 100 hours, 18 minutes a day, any discipline, you'll be better than 95% of the world in that. I don't know about that, but I just know I've taken a lot of shots. And so I've got to know how they move, where they're moving, what they're looking at, what they sound like. And so that's how I catch them now. It takes some time. You have to have the camera ready, and you have to have a lot of focus and patience and diligence.
I mean, is it just intuitive that you press the button? Do you take 50 shots and throw away 49? I mean, what do you do?
I used to. Flight? I used to, because I used to use very high FPS or motor, right, frames. But I'm at a point where I can just double tap. I call it that, to where I can either one tap or double tap and catch them. And so I'm proud of that because I went through many, many, many frames at first, but it was just a matter of catching what position, where their wings were when they were diving or their wings were when they were landing. And so it's gotten to the point where I can catch them now. It's just a matter of what can I see different that I didn't see before, or what can I show people that they normally don't see when they see this bird.
So, by the way, for those of you who don't know, because he's very shy, Michael has a calendar he puts out every single year right? I buy it every year and I hang it up. I took it down just for the show, but and it's just, it's just photos of birds. They're remarkable to me. I mean, I think they're beautiful.
I will say this real quick. One of the things that started with the calendar, I started posting on Nextdoor about 3-4 years ago, and my approach to Nextdoor was to, just shut up all the noise and the complaining, and what is it, Miss Clara looking out the bewitched window, and just to show something more positive. And I developed and gained a very large following there, and that really helped me put the calendar out, because people, approach every year want a calendar. So that was a little bit of, if you know what Nextdoor is about, you kind of get it.
Yeah.
Yep, I do. All right. So who wants to pick it up from there?
I'll jump in.
All right.
So for me, I take photographs of whatever is in front of my nose as I'm walking around, traveling, because, as with all of you, I travel a fair amount. And the spark for a photograph for me starts with seeing something interesting. And this could be an interesting combination or group of people. It could be something with the light. Something is interesting about the light. It could be just a composition that presents itself. Whatever it is, I'm always then trying to expand that germ into something that is integral in and of itself, meaning it can stand on its own. And the composition is very important with that, but matching the scene to the lens. So if I have a telephoto lens, then that's going to narrow the possibilities. If it's a wide angle lens, it's going to narrow down the possibilities. So you have to match the scene to the equipment that you have at hand.
So I know one thing with you that always has blown me away, and I'd say if I'm looking at these pictures, these images, this one probably reflects it best, is your ability to just use the color that you see. You have some of the most brilliant use of color I've ever seen. And I'm talking about even in comparison to people whose full-time profession is photography. It's not just that they're vivid or they stand out, but they just, I guess the only way to put it is it just works right. How do you first find the color? I mean, it's not like, oh, nice color. How do you set the shot given that you capture the color as well as the scene so well?
Yeah, I appreciate that. So, the color is everywhere. Our world is made of color. So if Paul, if you can go back to the picture of there's a bus and some people lined up on a sidewalk, that one. So that one this is an interesting one. I set the composition, and obviously I saw you had this person in the front and then you had 3 people behind kind of in a row, but then it was just sheer chance that the yellow stripe on the bus matches the stripe on the woman's coat.
Yeah.
So, but still I was there, I saw it, and something caught my attention and I said, oh, I got to snap this real fast.
Well, let me ask you, this might sound like a really dumb question, but the young woman whose picture you captured so well here in the front, beautiful young woman, did you ask her to stay there and look, or did she just grab a moment?
No, I mean, she doesn't look too happy either. I mean, you can see she looks, she's like, who the hell is this?
Uh-huh.
I mean,
and so no, I was just walking down the street and I saw it and snapped and off we went.
It's extraordinary to me. I just love that shot. And also, okay, so now one other sort of semi-technical point here. Obviously, I'm still depending on how you pronounce it, bokeh, or whatever. You actually have it here. Okay. So, and for those who don't know it, the way we all view it, even though it's actually more than that, is blurry background, right? But it's not actually more than that, but that's pretty much the best description you'll ever get from me, right? So, the question, how did you, like when you took this shot, were your settings set for, let's say a 1.4 f-stop, or I mean, what was the technology? What was the technical part of this? What did you do that allowed you to take that shot? Given that you're grabbing it because you saw a moment and you got to, let's call it a subject who's not thrilled to death, so you had to capture it fast before she took off after you.
Yeah. So the camera settings here, I don't remember exactly what they were.
Well, no, just like what were you think? How did you generally set things?
I don't think about the camera when I'm doing this. I think about, I know the camera is set in a particular way. And for me, it's like Michael Thomas said earlier, he used to, when he was younger, would take lots and lots of photos. Now he just knows when to press the button. And it's exactly the same way with me. It's like I look through the lens and like the photo is done. At that point, I don't even need to take the photo. Like the photo is over. I don't even need to take the photo. So based on the lens I have and the situation, it's just experience. You press the button and you know what's going to come out at the other end.
And it seems like it's like skill and experience, because from someone who was looking at this, it'd be like, wow, what are the chances of getting that, right? Or Michael Thomas, what are the chances of getting a bird in flight? But if you look at the reduction of chance because of skill and experience, just like Michael, you said, Michael Thomas, you're like, I took just tons of photos of birds, right? So you learn, understanding your environment, anticipation. So skill, experience, anticipation, which I imagine really great photographers have. Maybe you don't even know, like Michael Krigsman, like, you didn't know that bus was, but maybe there was something in the way you've honed a level of anticipation. Maybe you noticed it previously driving and you're like, whatever, and set it up. Like, it's hard for me to believe that this is all just purely chance, right? That you have that things go into the space and the way you guys as professional photographers approach a moment that help to create, the end result like this.
I akin it to being present. That's how I look at it.
Being present. Yeah, I like that. I like that. Being present.
I look, to me, it's almost mystical to me.
Yeah, me too.
I partly as I said, the only thing I can see when I'm looking inside my own head is live from New York. I don't see this, right? I don't see this. I am in awe of all of you that you can do that. And Michael Fauscette, why don't you take it from here? Because I have a specific question for you when we get to your gallery. Go ahead.
Sure. Yeah. So, I mentioned before that I really sort of honed skill when I was in high school working as a news photographer. And because of that, I was mentored by several, curmudgeonly old news photographers. So what you learn really quickly in that world is that the picture tells a story, and if it doesn't, throw it in the garbage can. It's that simple, right? If it doesn't tell the story, it's not a photo. It's trash. And I always think of Dorothea Lange, who was a famous photographer who shot a lot of what I'd call documentaries, some street, in the Depression and after. She had a quote that I love. It's a camera is a tool to learn how to see without a camera. And I always sort of think about that it's like I'm trying to tell this story. And then if you look at the photos, so you'll see I do two different styles, and that this style it's not documentary at all, right? This is impressionistic looking. Well, that's actually how I developed this. So this was a technique that I've been working on for probably 40 years. It can only be done on film. This is all done in camera. There is no post to this except adjusting a little bit of contrast. And the idea was I love impressionism. I love impressionist paintings, and I wanted to see if I could do that with a camera. And like I said, it's film. It would have been film back then for certain. And it's a really unusual way to think about it. So it isn't out of focus. It's actually in perfect focus, but it's 35 shots. It's 35 exposures on one negative.
Wow.
Yeah. And because of the slight motion in it, you get this sort of surrealist kind of impressionist look to it.
Yeah, I think it's from yours, Michael Fauscette, but I think we're getting a lot of background noise. I don't know if anyone else is.
Yes. Yeah.
A lot of Hold on.
It's not me. I mute and it stays.
Yeah. I'll mute it. Michael Thomas. That's who it is.
Michael Thomas.
Yeah. No, just because I hit the mute button. Oh.
Yeah, I hit the mute button. Oh, yeah. Now it's okay.
Now you're good. Yeah.
You're fine.
So wait, you said this is 35. Say that again, Michael.
It's these shots. I do these fairly often. It's between 30 and 40 exposures. This one was 35 exposures. So
okay, so let's go to that. That actually was my question. Mm-hmm. How do you? This is to your point, in the way you've identified it as abstract. So it's more. Let's call it. It's an artist shot, so to speak.
Yeah, I call it fine art, but yeah, absolutely.
Fine art shot. Let's call it that. So, but how do you find this? I mean, 35 exposures, but you had to find a subject that you were going to use that you could do this with. How'd you find that subject?
Well, you can do it with anything, but obviously some things work better than others. And like the Michael said, there are certain things about it. Light. So you want the light certain ways because how I've done this for so many years that I know how that's going to play out. And this was early morning. I woke up, I was in a hotel in Atlanta. I woke up, I walked out on the balcony and I was like, whoa, where's my camera? Because the light was amazing. And that's how this one came about. It was as simple as I'm going to shoot this because, wow, this is an amazing light show.
All right. So now here, okay. Now
this is the other half, right? So this is my street documentary, and I do a little travel shoots too, but essentially documentary relates back to the news photography that I sort of started with, and so I should probably say, because I know the other two photographers are completely digital. I'm not. I actually still shoot 80% on film. I was completely digital for a little while, and I didn't like it. I kept trying to buy software to make the images look like film, and then I realized if I just bought film, it'd look like film. So I stopped and I shot only film for years, and then I switched back and I started doing hybrid. And for the film, I do it hybrid, right? I shoot on film, scan it, and then it's a digital negative and digital process after that. And then I do shoot digital now too over the last 2 or 3 years. But and I love black and white. And frankly, most, if you looked at a set of work, if it wasn't the abstract fine art stuff, it would almost always be black and white, because I think color gets in the way of the story. And so I like to strip things down. And frankly, when I'm walking around and I shoot street, and that's how I like to do it, right? Just take a camera, walk out of the hotel and just wander about and see what I see. And all of a sudden a story will present itself. And then, I take the shot. And this one, obviously in London, this is the Horse Guards changing the guard ceremony. And when I do travel, I try to do something that's, this building and that activity is probably, 1 trillion photos of this around the world because it's such a popular tourist attraction. But I want to look at it and see something different. And I just want to try to show you this recognizable scene in a different way.
Okay, now, so you're doing that. Michael Krigsman, you're doing this black and white. Michael Thomas, you're doing black and white, that we saw with the initial picture. We've heard Mike Fauscette talk about, color gets in the way of the story. I don't know whether you agree with that or not, but I'm more interested in finding out, when do you decide you want to shoot black and white, as opposed to what is it that drives you to shoot black and white as opposed to color?
For me, it's generally what film's in the camera, or the fact that I'm shooting a Leica M monochrome that only shoots digital black and white. So that's often I've decided ahead of time, I guess I should say.
All right. Yeah. All right. So how about you, Michael Krigsman? What?
For me, it's a little different equation than the film that's in the camera or the camera that I'm carrying. It really is, will this photograph benefit from color? So in a sense, it's very similar to what Mike Fauscette was just saying. If color will add to the photograph in a material way, for example, if you're shooting the fall foliage, you're probably going to want to use color, although maybe not, depending on what you're trying to do. On the other hand, in this photograph, it's not about the color. It's about the expansiveness of the sky and the shapes. And each one of these people on this dock are in their own little action scene. It's like a little like a series of mini dioramas, so to speak. And you don't need color for that. Right. Color, as Mike said, will get in the way, because then you'll focus on the color and not on the elements that I cared about for this picture.
Michael, I love the fact that the clouds draw you right into this too. Like this, you look at this photo and you know exactly what you're focused on, right? It draws you right in. I love that feel.
It's like a still life, really.
Yeah, it is.
Exactly.
It
is. One of my things, I only shoot color, nature. That's just a rule for me. I just enjoy black and white. But I think, to me, color pushes out emotion, and black and white pulls it. And I like color with nature, because you're seeing like a starling. There's so many different colors to a starling. But in black and white, I want people to be pulled in, right? To feel. And I feel like that anything other than that would distract from the composition. And so I shoot it exclusively black and white on the street.
Michael Thomas, I noticed that in some of the other things of yours I've seen over the years, you used black and white for I guess the best way for its deliberate starkness.
Mm-hmm.
Because I know you have a lot of street scenes of people could be homeless, but there's poverty of some kind involved in the scene, and you're capturing the moment, because the thing with your photos, which I realized a fairly long time ago, is even in the conditional poverty, almost every subject you photograph, take a picture of, has a certain kind of dignity associated with them, right? Meaning they're not letting their circumstances deny them, I guess.
Right.
Way to put it. And you're really good at capturing that. And it's only been black and white in those shots, only the ones I've seen.
Yeah, I think it helps to set the scene. I think black and white also brackets the emotion and the scene. There's things around it that may help it, but I think that's the only way I tell the story. I like Gordon Parks is my favorite photographer, although there's many, but his shots really talk. There's my favorite book is called The Soul of the Camera. And so that's the way when I look at black and white.
Can I just react one point to this particular photo? That color. Well, let me put it this way. One of the things that makes a successful photo is pulling material out. So what are you including and what are you not including?
Yeah.
And usually we think about that as we're going to focus in on the subject and we're removing some element, some physical element from the scene. In this case, Michael removed the color element, which helps you drive into the focus on the people, right? You're like, the color would be a distraction.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So I know we're kind of starting to run short on time, but I would say at least one more question, a penultimate. Yay, I get to use the word. A penultimate question before we get to the ultimate one, which Kenny asked in the beginning, or what we talked about beforehand, I should say. The penultimate one, however, is, okay, there's people watching this, and it seems to be a pretty reasonable amount, judging from what I can see in the corner here. They're obviously very interested in photography and how good you guys are. Now they've seen this. At the same time, a lot of them, I presume, are not necessarily accomplished photographers. What do they, each one of you give one or two, I don't know, one or two, just give them some advice really on how to go about setting a scene, or if you choose to, what camera they should buy, or why they should do something or why they shouldn't do something. Just one or two things from each of you, just to give people some idea of something of value that they can take away.
I think one of the things is, it is your eye. No one sees what you see, how you see it. Yeah. Also, I've learned to not take a photo for what others think, and take a photo for what I feel. And that's, I think I don't take photos to get a prize or something. If it happens, that's great. But I don't do that. I shoot with a Sony A7 III. I have a 700, 300 lens, and then I have a 50 and 35 and a 90. And I also have a Fujifilm X-T30 that I travel with because it can fit in my backpack.
Okay, thank you. Either one of you guys.
I can jump in.
Okay.
My advice is, don't focus on the equipment. Focus on the fact that you've got that great camera in your pocket all the time, but that camera has 2, 3, 4 lenses that each have a specific role. And you need to match what you're taking, the subject that you're taking, with the lens. And so, for example, the telephoto lens is going to take things that are farther away and bring them closer. And so you can use that to fill the frame if you want that detail. On the other hand, the wide angle or the ultra wide angle is going to take big, wide scene. And so if you try to take a photo of a faraway object with the wide angle lens, it's not going to work because the subject of the photo is going to disappear in the wide angle lens. So you'd want to use your telephoto in that case. And you'd use your wide angle if you're up close and you want to take that broad scene, or if you're taking a picture of the sky with clouds, for example, and you want that expanse. But you need to match the scene to the particular lens. Beyond that, honestly, for most people, buying a camera and spending money on lenses, unless there's a real reason, it's kind of a waste. It's not going to make your photos any better.
I agree. I totally agree.
No, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I think first of all, you're absolutely right, Michael. A good photographer ought to be able to take any camera and come back with a picture that tells a story and would be engaging, right? And so I think focusing on the story is really important. And I think be intentional in what you're trying to do. I absolutely despise that noise when I'm standing next to a guy with a digital camera and I hear it sounds like a machine gun going off, because he's not actually thinking about what he's shooting. He's shooting everything there, and then he'll go back and in post go, okay, one of these 800 photos is pretty good. Cool. And that's not the way to do it, right? Because that's an accident. Maybe it's a happy accident, I don't know, but it's an accident. Be intentional, right? Tell the story, and you can do a shot, maybe do 2 shots of the same thing in a slightly different way because you're not sure exactly what angle is going to work the best or whatever. And then equipment. I mean, I shoot film a lot, so I have a lot of film cameras, but then I also do carry. I mean, I have an A7R4 and a Sony A7R4 and a Fuji X100V that I often throw in the backpack and take around too. So, I don't always think as much about the equipment as I think about the story and the scene and how do I tell that story with whatever I have.
Thank you.
Can I just say I have one guilty pleasure when it comes to equipment? I used to buy a lot of equipment, and now I sold all my cameras except I have an old Sony A7R2. The current generation is the 5, so it's like 3 generations old. But I just got, coming now from the person who says the equipment doesn't matter, I just got this Leica 50 millimeter 1.4 lens that is worth, 3 times as much as the camera is worth. And
that Summilux, oh my God, that is a great lens.
It's so incredible.
That's a great lens.
So that's a guilty pleasure, but there's a reason I got that lens. As Mike said, Mike used the word intentional. It was very intentional. I wanted certain kind of photographs, and that lens delivers, but it's not just like a random thing. It's like very specific.
And I love that lens, and I've had that lens for years. But for me, like if you asked me the question, Paul, if I only could have one camera forever, like I only get to keep one, which one would it be? It would be the most illogical camera that I have. It's a Hasselblad 203 FE with this 110 f2 lens, and it's medium format. So both Michaels probably just went f2. Oh my goodness! In a medium format camera, that's the equivalent of the Leica Noctilux for 35 millimeter. It is an unbelievable lens and camera combination, and they go together. So I would do without digital to just have that camera.
Okay. Kenny?
This leads perfectly into my next conversation because now with everyone having what they would consider a pretty good camera in their pocket. I mean, every time Apple drops a new iPhone, it's a lot of the focus is on, okay, well, how many megapixels, how many lenses? Now you can have this. They've even done tests, where they're like, it's equivalent to a $5,000 camera. With this ubiquity of these kind of high quality cameras and cameras in smartphones, maybe even specifically the iPhone, how has that changed the landscape of photography? I realize that maybe it's made things more accessible, maybe to those that aren't professional, but to a professional, how do you guys look at that? Because none of you guys said, "Oh, the only camera I would have would be an iPhone."
Well, they say the best camera you have is the one in your hand.
Yeah,
I have 2. I have the
look at you,
high-end Apple and the high-end Samsung because I like So take everything that I said about the equipment not mattering and not caring. That was a lie.
I mean, we do care about the equipment. Yes, I would shoot on that Brownie still if I had it, maybe, but I prefer to have the Hasselblad.
I mean, but do you think
have a Brownie? I'll send you if you want.
All right, awesome. I'd love it.
So what do you think about this? Like, I mean, now do we have a lot of people thinking they're professionals because they have the camera?
And I don't, I think that's great. It's democratized it more, I guess, because people have it. But the thing is, like, from a photographer perspective, it destroyed the stock business, right? Because you can't sell stock photos anymore because there's a gazillion photos available and nobody wants to pay you for them. So there is some negative there, I guess. But I think it's great. I I don't feel any sort of threat about it. I think it's use the camera you have, as Michael Thomas said. Yeah.
Can I just say one thing here on this point? When you go to a fancy restaurant, you have an incredible meal, right? You go to this restaurant, you spend all this money, the meal is phenomenal, and the chef comes out and you get a chance to meet the chef. The first question you say is not going to be, what kind of saucepan do you use?
Yeah, what pan? What oven are you cooking in?
Yeah, exactly. What brand of oven are you using? Because obviously that's the thing that's making your food so great.
Yeah.
The bear.
And this whole discussion of equipment, it's like having a better camera is not going to make you a better photograph. You'll have less noise. There'll be certain technical qualities that are better, but
But if you don't know how to, you don't know how to use the thing that you bought, and then it doesn't really make any difference. And sure, I love having nice cameras, and I probably shouldn't admit I probably have over 200 film cameras, but I do.
You really shouldn't admit that.
Yeah, you shouldn't admit that, Michael.
We didn't hear it.
So maybe I have a problem. I don't know, but I mean, it's still it's fun.
It's another episode.
I like to use them. Another episode, yeah. But again, if I happen to be out and saw something I want to take a picture of, and I had my phone with me, I take it with the phone. Like, that's fine. I don't care.
Yeah.
All right. Well, gentlemen,
fascinating. Just fascinating.
You guys, you're not only amazing photographers, but you're amazing at actually explaining it. I just, I mean, again, I'm literally a terrible. Well, I'm more on the video side, but I'll put it this way. I was on a cruise. I have a lot of good equipment, but I use most of it for streaming, right? Where in this case I do need it. So I have a Sony FX3 though, and I went on a cruise, and I thought, all right, well, I'll teach myself, taking videos, and you literally can hear me on the videos going, "Oh my God, this is terrible." Like, that's just audio on the video. That's how bad it is. So, but I'm going on another cruise in a few weeks actually, and I'm gonna take a second crack at it, and I'm gonna take some of the lessons that you've actually described, apply it to videography because it does, and try again. You actually, I'm not joking. I wasn't planning on it, but you've inspired me to take another shot at it and see if I can put it up. Maybe this time I'll go, oh, that's not terrible, but it's not so great either.
Can I just add one more comment about this democratization of the technology and the capabilities? As Mike Fauscette said, this has killed the professional photographer industry because everybody can take photographs, and there are a lot of really, really good photographers out there who are just delighted to give away their work and not sell it. So if one wants to become a professional photographer and actually make a living at it,
it's hard.
You need to be the best. It's just like the fancy restaurant with like the top chef. You better be that good with photography on every level of photography, or don't even bother these days.
And maybe special. I mean, I don't know, Michael, but it seems like with anything now, the more specialized you are in a very specific either type of photography or setting or framing or whatever that is, the better opportunity you have to possibly make it as a professional photographer.
The democratization of anything means that by definition, that capability is now accessible and available to a very broad, larger range of people than ever before. And now that's all your competition.
Well, and unfortunately, a democratization also equals commoditization for the photographer, right? And that's painful.
Well, guys, we're literally not only out of time, overtime, but that worked for me. So thank you so much for this, and this will be going up on multiple sites. It's already it was live streamed to multiple sites. It will be going up on a couple of other ones that are not up on yet, and there'll be clips coming from this, so you'll see a lot of availability. What I'll do, we'll add to the clips, if you don't mind, how to reach you guys if somebody wants to reach you guys.
Sure.
You let me know after this if that's what you want, and then we'll take care of it from there.
Right.
So thank you again. It was a real pleasure.
Thank you.
Wonderful.
Yes.
Appreciate
Thank
it
you so much.
Thank you.
See ya. Amazing.
You know, when you hear folks like the three Michaels, you realize, and you look at some of these photographs, you realize how much camera as a witness to the world it is. Like the concept of being present, which Michael Thomas, I think, talked about, this concept of framing things, the concept of telling stories, of just preserving time, which also through this preservation, you get experiences and emotions and stories and deeper connections through this tapestry of human life, is a gift for us.
Well, that's the thing.
Tremendous.
I mean, look, I don't pretend to have the skill set at all, or the eye, or the intuition, or the knowledge, or the experience. I don't have any of it. But one thing that happens every time I see photos from any of these three, or a few other out there, and Michael Thomas mentioned a photographer who I actually love too, which is Gordon Parks, who I've pored over his work for years and years and years. It goes to you're literally, and it's sort of cliche to say it, but you're literally transported.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, and you're transported to the subject. The only other thing I would say is that on the final part of the democratization, Michael Krigsman made the point that, you better be damn good at what you do, and if you put it in the terms of the business tech world, we've had this conversation for the last few years about signal. You have to, if you're a company, you have to separate your signal from the noise. But what democratization creates is not just signal from noise, it creates a lot more signal. So you end up having to separate signal from signal. That's how you have to stand out. And that's a much bigger task and a very difficult one.
Yeah.
That said,
right.
The fact that we do have these and it allows us to take pictures. I will tell you this, and then I think we should probably, I have to do some very mundane things at home, like it's garbage day tomorrow morning, so I have to take out the garbage, right? That's literally what I have to do.
Take some pictures of it.
Yeah. You know what it'll look like when that's done? The garbage can with garbage in it, right?
Yeah,
so
yeah, pictures. Exactly.
That's literally all that's going to happen. So, Michael, one of the things with years ago with Michael Krigsman, he did this shot, and it's a shot he's reproduced on different streets, but he did this shot. It was done at night. It was probably early fall, I would say, and it was I'm presuming if I remember, it was years ago, so don't hold me to it, but it was Boston Street. But all I remember when I saw the shot was thinking that this was literally Earth as an alternate planet. That was the way I thought about it. It was Earth as an alternate planet, because it captured something that could only be momentary. It could not be persistent. It captured your point of that time, capturing time.
Camera as witness. Yeah.
Yeah. It was, and it was a super brief moment, but it was gorgeous.
And you know what's fascinating about what you just said is usually when we think of the concept of emotional transportation, which is the complex systems of actions and reactions that operates within stories, right, to move listeners. My friend Peter Guber, producer of Batman, Rain Man, talks a lot about emotional transportation. What you are just describing is emotional transportation happening in a static image, not through words and through structure and the ability to move people. It happens through this static image that is taken in such a way and delivered in such a way that it emotionally transports you just visually.
Yeah,
which is
fair.
Tremendous. Just
Well,
tremendous.
And on that note, I still have to take out the garbage.
Okay, sorry, it's trying to get you out of that, but
no,
maybe you have a different. Maybe you think differently of it, but no, you have to do what you have to do.
Yeah. So,
but what a great show! Great group.
God, yeah, and hopefully we'll, like we were going to do with a couple others. Let's do the same with these guys in a few months. Ask them back and get some updates on more insights and what they've done.
I love that.
This was also an invaluable show.
Yeah, just really incredible. Just phenomenal. Not only photographers and tech people, but just really good human beings. So, all right, Mr. Greenberg, Professor Greenberg, Dr. Greenberg. It's been as always. It's been tremendous. So
same.
Thank you again for coming together, and I can't wait till next month.
Me either, and send my love to Chris too when you get the
yes, and you too, Vaughn, for sure.
All right,
I will.
Sure.
Okay.
Time for that outro.
All right. Well, let's do it, Mr. Trash Man.